I'm going to cover the construction industry's crisis of shortages and explain why construction costs have gone up 10% over the past year and why they're not going down. From shipping shortages to material shortages, I'll have you up to speed. And finally, I'll give you a forecast of what's coming up with construction costs. An increase, but a more steady increase. Let's get into it. While COVID-19 has been tough on many industries, the construction industry has been hit particularly hard. Over the past year, we've seen an eye-watering 10% increase and 25% over the past 5 years. How do we explain this shortage? And why do these shortages mean that construction costs are very unlikely to fall? One factor is labor shortages. Unfilled construction roles have increased by 80% since the start of COVID-19. And by 2023, it's expected there will be more than 100,000 unfilled roles in the construction sector. Part of this huge shortage of labor comes down to not being able to import skilled labor from overseas. Now, what has this meant for construction labor costs over the past year? Well, bricklaying labor costs 15% more, plastering labor and joinery 10% more, and finally, plastering and landscaping 5% more. Now, what we've been exposed to on the news, material shortages. What we are most short of is structural timber and steel beams. Specifically, these items are costing 40% more than this time last year. Electric cable and plastic piping have risen by 30%. Floor coverings, bricks and paint are up 10%. With these increases, you can start to imagine why builders are in such a rush to raise their prices. Another cost hemorrhaging the building industry and practically every other industry is shipping costs. Shipping costs have doubled over just the past year alone. And if you stretch back to before COVID-19, then the costs have gone up by 300 to 400% since then to now. Now, the issue is not the number of containers, but rather where they're at. So most of them are in the USA, Australia, parts of EU, i.e. the heavy importers. To make things worse, the heavy importing countries' ports are filled to the top, so new containers can't come in. So to send these containers back to Asia, they often have to go empty, since there is less to send from, say, the USA or Australia back to Asia. Finally, another key factor is the project pipeline for builders. This pipeline is still swollen and will take time to loosen up. About 140,000 people applied for the home builders scheme, whereby the government first offered 25,000 but then later 15,000 for people looking to do substantial renovations or to build a home. This had a noticeable influence on many Australians who decided to do that big renovation or build a home to take advantage of this incentive last year. Now, what's on the horizon? Construction costs are likely to rise, but at a much slower rate than what we've seen over the past year. But by no means are they likely to drop. Instead, we are probably looking at an 8% increase over this coming year. Then we're probably looking at an annual rate of increase of 3 to 4% for the consecutive years after that. And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for watching. My next video will be looking at how the inflation in the US of the 70s compares to today's situation. If you want to see that video, please subscribe.